So IG Wealth Management, our presenting partner for this 4-part series, passionately supports our mission of meaningfully propelling and celebrating the advancement of women at all levels, in all sectors and all ages. Their entire team has also been an incredible resource and source of encouragement every step of the way. Thank you to everyone behind the scenes at IG and WXN for making this happen. For this series, IG Wealth Management has kindly provided the IG Lounge space, where you can network and find helpful insights and thought leadership about the IG living plan, wealth handout, wealth careers, and how to find your personal advisor, and much more. Please make sure you take a virtual trip to the IG Lounge located on the far left and far right hand sides of all floors to check out the many useful links. And now, I would like to introduce our host for the 4-part series, Alana Riley, Senior Vice President, Western Canada at IG Wealth Management. A success-driven people leader known for building and motivating top-performing diverse teams. Alana boasts an expansive career in financial services. She's led teams of 1,000+ employees in wealth management, estate and trust, retail banking, commercial insurance, healthcare, and small and medium-sized business lines. A passionate champion of D&I, Alana's IG's National Chair, Women, Wealth and Wellbeing, and a Diversity and Inclusion Steering Committee member. She holds a Master of Business Administration degree from Dalhousie University, blended with financial services, and currently serves as the Alumni Ambassador. Alana has also obtained a Bachelor of Art degree from the University of Windsor and multiple professional designations. Alana is active in the community, serving on several boards, including Gordie Howe, CARES, and Children First Canada. She also founded Invest in You, a not-for-profit strategically intended to create positive community impact. Please give a warm virtual welcome to Alana.
Well, thank you so much. Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining for the 3rd webinar hosted by IG Wealth Management in our 4-part Women, Wealth, and Wellbeing, Empowering Women's Success in partnership with the Women's Executive Network. We've just been having such a great time joining over the past number of weeks, and certainly the networking sessions on the tables has been something that I've really enjoyed. As mentioned in the intro, my name is Alana Riley, and I am the Senior Vice President here at IG Wealth Management. IG is the largest financial planning firm in Canada with advisors in every community from coast to coast. We are part of the IGM Financial family of companies, and we're one of the largest financial services firms in Canada. Every day, we are driven by our mission to inspire financial confidence that can transform the lives of our clients and their families, and we are deeply committed to improving financial literacy in the communities where we work and live. I'm thrilled to be your host today. And as mentioned, we are offering remote closed captioning throughout the event. There is a link that is provided in our chat box for those viewers to access the captions in another window. I'm joined today by 4 fantastic female leaders and branding experts from across the IGM Financial group of companies. They are ready to share their stories and insights to help you unlock the power of your personal brand. So let me introduce our great panel. First up, Moya Brown, Senior Vice President, Brand Strategy and Experience at IG Wealth Management. Moya and her team lead the end-to-end brand and client experience strategy, design and delivery, from prospecting through advocacy. This includes the company's integrated advertising, which maybe you've seen on TV or social media, we hope, events and field marketing and more. She's a strong collaborative leader with a passion for strategic consumer-driven marketing. So welcome, Moya. Of my good friend and colleague, Marissa Teeter, Senior Vice President, Financial Services. So as mentioned, she has over 15 years of business development, wealth management, and marketing experience. She believes strongly in supporting financial literacy and well-being for all Canadians. Her entrepreneurial spirit and relentless energy make her a valuable resource to clients, colleagues, and business associates alike. Marissa is also very involved with her local community and international causes, from coaching and mentoring other professionals to serving on many charitable boards over the years. Also on our star panel here, we have Fate Sagar, Head of Sustainable Investments for Mackenzie Investments. Fate oversees a center of excellence that is developing capabilities, dedicating focus, and enriching technical expertise of environmental, social, and governance, otherwise known as ESG, factors in support of corporate strategy, investment management practices, and sustainable product offerings. She has a strong client orientation and is focused on generating long-term value for all stakeholders. Fate sits on a number of advisory boards and has worked internationally in Dubai and the United States, fueling her diverse experience. Our fourth and final speaker today is Lisa Marie Winning, an executive consultant at Winning & Associates Private Wealth Management. With over 20 years of experience in the wealth management and financial planning fields, Lisa holds 5 different designations in the investment industry and has worked with both bank-owned and full-service brokerage firms. She also is an active supporter in her local community and has competed in several prominent sports events, including the New York and Chicago marathons. So thank you so much, ladies, for joining us today. Lastly, although we're virtual, we're still looking forward to it being quite interactive. So as you may have noticed, there's a question and answer live box for you to answer questions throughout the session. We have 2 more of our team members here online answering your questions. Barb Wensley, Regional Director, and Lisa Ritchie, VP Talent Acquisition with IG Wealth Management. At the end, we'll also conclude with a live audience question and answer period, so ladies, don't be shy. And I probably should say gentlemen too, because I know we have a few of those advocates here as well. So I'm thrilled to have this group together to talk about how a powerful personal brand can open up new opportunities. Creating a recognizable brand doesn't come easy to everyone. In particular, during COVID, this environment we've been operating in has added another layer of complexity. To kick things off, I'm wondering if each of you would share one thing that you've done over the past year to further develop your brand and expand your network that may have been a different strategy that you've used in the past. So if you don't mind, Marissa, we'll start with you.
Thanks, Alana. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. You know, to be honest with you, I went into 2020 thinking I'm not going to let this year pass me by with coming out of this better off somehow. But more importantly, I wanted the people around me to feel that exact same way. So one of the things I did in 2020 and beyond, and even moving into 2021, was doing my best to empower and provide a platform to other women around me, be it through charitable initiatives, small business initiatives. So I lent my support, coaching, mentoring, whatever influence or platform I had to elevate them. And in the end, it always comes full circle. And I benefited a lot myself just from learnings and experience and connecting with a lot of great new women.
Fantastic. Thanks so much. Fate, how about you?
Yeah, thanks for having me as well. This is so great. It's nice to be on a panel with such incredible women like yourself. Similar response to Marissa. I think, you know, for me, it's been a difficult year for all of us, and where I've really tried to focus is doing more mentorship. And you know, I've always done mentorship, but leaning in a bit more on new graduates and young women that are just entering the workforce. So spending time and hearing about some of the challenges that they might have during this difficult year and finding roles. And I think, you know, I took so much from that conversation. I hope they took some value from the conversations I've had over the last year. But I think for me, it's really helped me to connect better with my team, and to become a better leader, which we're always striving to be. So I think, again, just leaning into others, so different type of networking, but nevertheless still very powerful.
Fantastic. Thanks for sharing. And I know I feel that way every time I get a coffee conversation with you, so I'm sure they did as well. Moya, how about yourself?
Yeah, I took some time when I had a moment to catch my breath, and I reflected, and it's relevant for this conversation, on how could I better reflect my personal brand and generate more in my network. And wouldn't you know, I had been really neglectful of my own LinkedIn profile. It was truly a case of the cobbler not having any shoes. So I did spend some time, took that time, I guess you could say, for me to really refresh the LinkedIn profile. It historically hasn't been as an important channel, but certainly in the last 3-4 years it is. And I know we're going to talk more about that in general today, but that was a big focus for me over the last little while.
Fantastic. And good point, I think, and something for all of us. Lisa Marie, how about you? What's changed this year for you?
Well, in my role, I'm client facing. And so with 2020 eliminating the ability to be face-to-face like I normally was, I took that time to completely recalibrate this strategy as to how I was going to stay connected with people. I think I realized early on that connection was going to be one of the most valuable things that I could offer to my clients and to prospective clients. So I revisited how we were going to do that and how I was going to be able to preserve that same experience that we had been offering. I mean, historically, we would get together for dinner, like boutique dinners or at sporting events, and we would find a way to socialize and maintain those professional friendships that way. And so I found that I needed to kind of go back to the drawing board and reinvent a virtual strategy for maintaining those connections, new website, new social media. I needed to find a way to convey to people who were going to be looking at me online versus in person who I was and what was important to me and what I stood for. And so I think that, you know, it's funny. I mean, Moya talked about LinkedIn. It's an undertaking, right? And so it did take a good chunk of the year, but I was really excited to kick off 2021, feeling as though that chapter, that piece was ready to be launched.
Yeah, it's amazing. So this is my favorite part. We're going to move on to a few rapid fire questions here for you, which again, for us women, rapid fire are tough. We can talk about these things forever. But in one sentence or less, help us, let us know what resonates with you from a professional standpoint. So telling a story or showing an image? Moya, over to you.
An image. I think you can portray so much emotion through an image. We all have really short attention spans, so an image can grab you just like that.
Awesome. How about you, Faith?
I'm a storyteller. That's how I connect with people, and then so I'm gonna go with storytelling.
Awesome. So a bit of both. How about next? Advocating for yourself or building advocates? And let's start with you, Marissa.
Building advocates. I'm a big believer in even third-party validation. It's great to talk about other people, and I believe that always comes back to us.
Amazing. And Lisa Marie, how about you?
I would say I agree with Marissa, building advocates, but I also think being an advocate for others as well. I think that we can really kind of channel that energy and power if we can kind of do on to others in that same capacity.
Yeah, I totally agree. Well said. Okay, here we go. So favorite social media site for branding and why? And let's go, Faith, back to you.
I try not to share too much on social media on the personal front, but I think on the professional front, LinkedIn, I think Moya touched on that. That's just so such an incredible platform. And now I think you can, you know, really start to share some of your values, causes, things that you advocate for, stand for on there, completely acceptable. So I definitely focus on LinkedIn.
Fantastic. Thanks for sharing. And Marissa, how about you?
I got a little bit more specific on this one, and I was trying to think of specific examples of people and brands. And to be honest with you, to me, it's all the small businesses that women have been running out of their basements, their living rooms, their kitchens during COVID. You know, a local lady who gets me to spend $40 on a dozen cookies because her branding is so good and they're so fantastic. To me, I've been really impressed by that uprising of these empires, these business empires that women are building out of their homes during COVID.
Yeah, I love it. Amazing. And the cookies sound great too. Most inspiring brand story that you can relate to. And Lisa Marie, back to you.
There's actually a local Canadian designer. Her name's Ella. She is young. She built this fantastic brand. She was featured at Holt Renfrew. And I watched her about 18 months ago completely turn her brand around. And she switched from leather to vegan leather, changed her price point, changed her branding. And I thought she had just kind of reached that pinnacle point. And then she did something that was important for her. And that was really inspiring for me. I like the, you know, taking risks to really, you know, reflect who you are and what's important to you.
That's amazing. Thanks for sharing. And I see in the side chat already that there's great shoes and handbags apparently that she has too. So I'll have to check that out. Thanks for the great tip. And Moya, same question. Most inspiring brand story that you can relate to?
Well, I love that story, Lisa Marie, and mine's similar. I really love to follow Laird Hamilton and Gabby Reese. I think they're an amazing couple, and they're really committed to plant-based lifestyle. And Laird, with Gabby as his amazing partner, and I think most of the brains behind the operation, obviously. They have launched Laird Superfoods, all plant-based, and they went so far as to going public on the New York Stock Exchange last year. He showed up with shoes on and, you know, cash surfer style, but I just think it's amazing to see they've taken their personal passion, their partnership, and launched an amazing line of food products.
Oh, that's great. Thanks so much. And we'll have to check that out too. So let's stay with you if you don't mind, Moya. You obviously have a wide range of marketing experience across multiple business models, from billion-dollar brands to financial startups. So are there any brand building strategies you've picked up from working with these different organizations that apply to developing your own personal brand?
Absolutely, and I probably still have a passion for food because I did spend quite a bit of time at Campbell's Soup. So whether it's Campbell's, financial services, or your own brand, there's a couple of foundational pieces that apply no matter what, and including and importantly for your personal brand. So the first is really knowing your audience, your high value client, your high value customer. Who is it that you want to connect with, and how do you want to build your business, and really understanding them deeply. Their needs, their dreams, their hopes, and then thinking about your own value proposition. And, you know, we like to say UVP, that U is for unique. For businesses, finding that unique or that point of distinction is really hard. The great news for doing your own personal UVP, there's only one of each of us. So by default, we're unique. And, you know, it's about really stepping back and thinking about yourself. What's true for you? What do you value? And writing that down in your unique value proposition with your ideal client or your high value customer in mind. Write it down, and you're going to modify it and evolve it as you do. But that's the same as you would do for a big commercial brand. It's the same steps, but I think in some ways easier because it's about you, and each of us are unique.
I love that kind of UVP personal approach. So thanks so much for sharing. Marissa, we're going to head over to you now. You know, how do you approach your brand? And do you have a separate professional brand image and personal brand image? That seems to come up so often for women particularly. And so why do you feel that they should be either the different or the same?
Well, I'm going to build off what Moya said, because I think it comes down to being incredibly personal and unique and authentic. And yes, I believe that I have a separate brand professionally and personally. It doesn't mean I'm two different people. It doesn't mean I'm not being authentic or true to who I am, or I'm trying to be something that I'm not. I've just established, I took some time to figure out, you know, when it comes to my personal life, what are the values that are important to me? So for example, when I'm posting things on my personal social sites, you know, there are some things that I would probably never post because it doesn't resonate with me, where there are other things that are important to me, and you'll probably see a lot more of that. So hoping that when you are on my personal site, you'll get a real sense of who I am, and I create boundaries around that, boundaries for myself, boundaries for my children and my family, to ensure that I'm protecting everyone around me as I'm posting. On the professional side, I am one of those people that see those things as being fairly separate in my industry, in my business, as it relates to what I do every day. And that may be different for you. You as a personal individual, that might be your brand, that might be your business. But I do bring everything that I am as a person to my professional brand, but I create boundaries. I create boundaries, and I can still be authentic within those boundaries. I can still speak my mind. I can still be incredibly authentic and real and genuine in my brand, but I create a value system professionally, and I function within that. So, you know, you probably won't see pictures of, you know, me in a bikini on a beach somewhere on my professional sites. Now, if that's your brand and that plays into what you do, I mean, you probably won't see it on my personal sites for what it's worth. But if it's what you do and it fits in with your brand, that's different. But for me, I think it's important to create your own value proposition and try to keep those a little bit separate, so that you can also have clarity on drawing the line, so that, you know, we don't get into these issues of oversharing or undersharing even, so that people can really get a true sense of who you are. Yeah,
that's so interesting, especially around, you know, that happy medium between both. So thanks so much for that. Fate, over to you. You recently became the head of sustainable investing for Mackenzie Investments, obviously a huge role, which is a newly established role. And of course, you sit on many advisory boards as you know, part of meaningful conversations at many organizations. How do you find work that has meaning for you and aligns with your core values as well?
Yeah, great question. I think it really builds on what Moya and Marissa have said. I think there's a couple of things. first is really knowing yourself. It takes, I think, years. I know it took me a couple of decades to really understand, what I value most and what I wanted to be when I grew up. And I do feel this specific role encapsulates so much of that. But knowing who you are, and I think part of my brand over the last number of years and the last number of roles that I've held has been about taking undefined roles and undefined mandates and building them. So that was one thing that I've kind of become in the sustainable investing space. This has been an emerging space over the last number of years, and it initially started piquing my interest from a social causes perspective. So things about, diversity and inclusion, what we're talking about today, how organizations operate within their communities and how respectful they are of their employees. So all those things were important to me. And then it, started to explore the impact of climate within our industry, right? The impact of climate change on the value we deliver to our clients. And so as I was digging into that further, I knew our organization was starting to think about, okay, how do we really put a more dedicated focus on it? And so that now became, hey, I have a real passion for this. I think this aligns with what I want to do. How do I make sure that I let my, senior leader, my boss, and so on know that this is something I'm interested in? And so I did that, and it worked out really well for me, because when they were ready to fill the role, I was a natural fit. So maybe just, a couple of things: know yourself, what you want, what you value, and then make sure you tell people. I find I talk to so many young women that are just a little hesitant to speak up about what they want to do. And I think it's important that you're communicating across your organization and your network on where your values lie and what you want to achieve.
That's amazing. It actually reminds me of the great book that Abby Womack has out around Wolfpack, which I just love. And, that first kind of thought process of, following the path like you're supposed to, or carving your own. And so great to hear that was successful for you. Love that. So Lisa Marie, obviously, we're so lucky. We know you're one of our top advisors at IG Wealth Management. Obviously a nationally recognized organization that, thanks to some of the partners on the screen, advertises on your behalf. So why do you feel it's important to focus on building out your personal brand when you already maybe have the connection to a well-established brand?
Well, I think I'm listening to the other women on this panel. I think, you've all kind of touched upon what has resonated with me when in this question. And I think now more than ever, after coming through what we experienced last year, I think relationships are more important. Connections are more important to people than they ever have been. When we were without them for a period of time, I think it caused people to reflect on who they are, what's important to them, who they want to be aligned with. And so while I value being part of a large organization, I think now that people are in this path of self-reflection, I want to make sure that my personal brand explains and expresses who I am, what's important to me, what I support, what I value. And so my personal brand for me is my story and how I'm conveying that message. And whether it's, in the events that I support, the charities that I support, the decisions that I make personally, I believe that sharing that has either reaffirmed the client relationships that I have, and in some cases, just recently I've noticed that it's starting to attract new people, and people are coming to me and they're telling me that they are making the decision to reach out and establish a new relationship with me because they have learned something about me and what I support. And just in the past, I would say kind of 2 or 3 months, 2 examples that come to mind. I had someone reach out. They had been considering changing advisors over the course of the past year. Over the past year, we've all been in lockdown. They have 2 young children, twin boys, and both working from home, both professionals. They needed to find a way to let their kids expend some of that energy, that pent-up energy. And one of the initiatives that I had sponsored in our community this year was something that was a safe way to get outside, and we lit up the entire downtown Burlington with lights. Christmas lights strung everywhere, and it was a really safe environment. And this is where they took their kids every day. And so they passed these beautiful signs that were on brand with my brand, and just over and over realized that I had helped to create this experience that was helping them in their own life. And so they reached out and they said, this is why we're connecting with you. And then I had a client, a longtime client, who through, I guess, because I'm home and I'm doing a lot of filming at home, kind of connected where I live in the community, and were walking by and sent me a note when they got home saying, we saw you, we recognized you outside your house, and we saw that you had a vehicle charging station installed at the side of your house. And we are, environmentalists, that's so important to us. And we just, that we want you to know that we feel really connected to you, and we wanted to say, that we feel as though this is a really great relationship that we have. And so those two tiny little things, just sharing who I am and making decisions, purchases, allocating my dollars and my resources to things that are important to me. I think that over time I'm going to be able to build a practice full of people who have common interests and commonalities. And what better way to have a long-term financial planning relationship than with people who are, you've got that great fit with.
Yeah, I love all those stories. So thank you so much for sharing, and obviously having a huge impact on the community. I think certainly now more than ever, people just want to have an opportunity to put a smile on their face and be happy and great to get outside. So here we go back to some of these, let's say rapid fire, because I think this is a great question. But so if you could take a little bit more time if you want, but share with us one of your superpowers that makes you stand out from the crowd. So Marissa, let's start with you.
Well, I think, I don't know if it's so much a superpower, but it's something I work hard at that I would love to think will just come naturally at some point. But I work really hard at, I think, trying to bring out the best in other people. The analogy that I use is I love just teeing people up, just putting the ball on the tee so people just have to swing it out of the park. I love bringing out the best in people. I love highlighting in other people what perhaps they don't see in themselves. Which is a big part of the mentoring, and even in my role at IG, what I get to do is I'm there to serve the people that I work with and my colleagues, to help them be their best selves and do their best work, men and women. And I love that. I get so much out of that. And I don't know, there was certainly a tipping point in my life where I went from being go, really focused on making sure I was showcasing the best in myself, and then something switched, and I just got so much more joy out of showcasing the successes and the incredible work and the gifts of other people. So it's something I take a lot of pride in, and I work at constantly to make sure that I can get better at it, especially in this COVID environment, because it's changed how I'm able to do that. But to me, it's something I really cherish and value.
Oh, fantastic. Thanks so much, Marissa. Fate, how about you?
Yeah, for me, I'll go back to the authenticity. I think that's something that I bring. I maybe have a little bit of a harder time. I love what Marissa was explaining earlier in separating your professional and your personal brand. I've had a hard time doing that myself. I found when I didn't bring my personal self to some of the conversations, I just found it. I found it hard to present, to explain things, to be passionate about things. And so I do try in my professional brand, that authenticity is like, I'm a little bit geeky. I have immigrant parents. I have, I love data, all those things that may not necessarily always, show up in the way that, others might expect. But I think it makes me who I am, and it adds to a little bit of that authenticity. So it's an interesting question, right? And interesting superpower for me anyway. I do strive to bring that every day, and we all make it work, right? And we're all unique, as Moya said as well.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that. Just kind of circling back to, we all have superpowers. So that's fantastic. I love that. Moya, how about you?
Mine is resilient with a heavy dose of determination. And I often think I'm a bit of a glutton for a big challenge. I seem to find myself in them a lot. And I think that's not a coincidence. And the last thing I'd say when I was thinking about this, I just realized when I hear no, that's actually go time for me. So it seems to work out well with my superpower.
I love that. And maybe related too much to my teenagers at times, but I do love that. Lisa Marie, over to you.
Well, we have this mantra in our house. We always tell the kids, the more you give away, the more you get back. And what that means is, it doesn't mean money. It means your time and your support and helping other people. And so that is something that when we wake up every day, we kind of set out with the intention of, when we go back to bed at night, to feel as though we made some sort of an impact in somebody else's life. What could we give away? How could we help someone to make their business better? Marissa, you talked about these female businesses and wanting to support them in your community, and like that's a great example. Is how can we reallocate our just our habits to help other people in their own personal development. And so and I do believe that the more you do that, that it's just naturally the law of attraction that just comes back on you. And I feel like my family and I, we've been very blessed. We have good careers, and we have we're healthy. And I feel as though that's a result of that mantra that we live by.
Yeah, I love that. I kind of love that saying, like the rising tide lifts all boats, right? So well done. It sounds like great work that you do in the community, and of course, inspiring your family to do the same. So that sounds amazing. So ladies, thank you so much. We've kind of kicked off the beginning. Why I love this platform is the opportunity to network outside of just being on Zoom or Teams or what have you. So you'll be able to jump out of here, go to different tables, start meeting new people. I see that there's tons of chats on the side going along in terms of connect with me on LinkedIn. Don't forget you can add your LinkedIn bio as well while you're here on the platform. So feel free to jump in and out of tables. We do have at either side the IG Wealth Management table that you can pop in there. We also have some great handouts. I probably should have mentioned that at the beginning, but they're at the table. So if you want to pull this off, some more great strategies around branding and a few different takeaways. So it's the handout is thank you. Karen is in the side discussion as well as at those two tables, and we'll be back at 2 o'clock Eastern time. Which don't worry, we'll be like prompted right back in. You don't have to do anything. So enjoy your networking, and hopefully you go and meet some new people. Perfect. Thanks so much, ladies. And hopefully you also had an opportunity to jump into one of those tables. So great to meet lots of amazing new people and some familiar faces too. So that's great. So let's circle back now into another round of rapid fire questions, if you don't mind. So, and these are like really important questions. You ready for this one? What are you currently binge watching, Lisa Marie?
We are currently binge watching Yellowstone, and we just went back and watched all 8 seasons of Entourage. So a little old school.
Oh, very good. I must admit that Yellowstone, first of all, as an Albertan, it looks like it could be in our backyard. So, but it's a good one. Thanks so much for sharing. Fate, how about you? What have you currently been binge watching?
You know what? This past weekend, I was just telling the networking group, I watched Hillary. It's about 4 episodes, and I highly recommend it. It's just so empowering for her, start to the end. So that was really great. I found it. It was just very inspiring for me to watch. But I'm kind of like Lisa Marie. I to help me go to sleep at night sometimes, and to stop the work the work thinking. Friends, 30 Rock, The Office. I watch rerun after rerun. Knocks me right out.
Oh, that's awesome. Very good. Well, thanks so much for sharing. Okay, so how about your favorite way to relax or unplug? Because we certainly need lots of those right now. Marissa, how about you?
Well, it probably relates to what I'm going to binge watch, because that's generally the only time. And in my house, it's Paw Patrol and other TV shows that just go on loop. And honestly, as silly as it sounds, that is when I get to kind of chill out, when my kids are kind of watching something, and I can either just lie there with them and zone out. To Fate's point, I love watching reruns of Friends and New Girl over and over and over and over, just because they're mindless and easy. But we're definitely binge watching a lot of Paw Patrol, and that's just how I unplug when the kids are happy and busy.
Oh, that's awesome. Although I'm not necessarily certain that I miss a lot of those younger kid shows. Although we do have Disney Plus, so that's good too. Moya, how about you? How do you relax and unplug?
I have 2 things, and I guess it depends on the weather. So one, I love to sew. So I am also a nerd, Fate, and one of my things that falls into that category is sewing. So I love it. I just completed a quilt for my mom's birthday. And then if weather permits, I love to be outside. I love nature. We recently took up cross-country skiing because you can't really do much else right now in Ontario. And that just is really restorative for me.
Oh, I love that. Fantastic. That's so great. Phone call or text, Lisa Marie?
Text. I know I feel like I'm going to sound like a millennial when I say that, but I'm not a millennial. Text because of the boundaries, because I think I can like give time to people and really, engage in good conversation when it's time that I've sat down to have that conversation, as opposed to kind of being caught off guard with a phone call.
Yeah, fantastic. How about you, Marissa? Phone call or text?
I do my best phone calls in the car. Everyone knows when they're getting a phone call from me, it's because I'm in the car and I'm headed somewhere and I've got nothing else to do. So I get some good talking done in the car, but usually text, and I call them thought bombs. I love just dropping little lines with people. How's it going? How you doing? Thinking about you. And I can assure you I'll be texting Moya after this, because I have to hear all about her sewing, because my daughter got into sewing, and I am not a sewer, so now I know who to bug.
So I love that. And I would totally agree. My problem is, because we don't drive anywhere anymore, I haven't been calling anyone. So my family's like, are you going to call soon? So I guess I was following that path too. How about aspirational leader, Fate? Who's for you?
It's probably one of my first leaders when I started my career. I was given a mandate that was probably way too big for me to handle. I was 25 and had no, like, all of a sudden inherited a team of 25. And one of the things that I still think of him often and his leadership style is he trusted me, built my confidence. I failed quite a bit, but at the same time, he never really failed me. And so that's someone that I try to emulate for sure.
No, that's fantastic. Certainly aspirational indeed. And how about you, Moya?
I thought about this and I kept coming back around to my mom, actually. So she's a pioneer. She was a woman prison warden at federal men's institutions, and she just 5 feet tall. So she really led with a great deal of empathy, but obviously strength. And these hardened criminals would address her always as Mrs. Brown. They never swore at her, despite having, that's the only way they seem to communicate. And I think that's because of how she showed up. It just commanded that kind of respect. So I've always looked up to her for that, and talk about thriving in a real male world. So I had that example from early on. So continue to think about that every day.
Wow. Well, first of all, thank you all. I am learning new things about all of you, and I felt I have spent lots of time with you. So this is so amazing. So thank you. The next question is for Faith. So defining your personal brand and standing out from the crowd isn't always easy, and certainly oftentimes for so many of us can feel uncomfortable. How do you become comfortable with that, being uncomfortable?
Great question. I think there's so much progress that's made when you're uncomfortable, and so much learning. So I think it's very important. But there's a couple of things. I think first is recognizing sometimes it could show up in different feelings, and so recognizing when you are uncomfortable and really trying to pinpoint, what it is that's causing that, and how you could find your way through it. And maybe I'll use my current role. And just some of the experiences I've had over the last year. So I knew I wanted this job. This was like my dream job. This is what I want to do. I recognize, the business building aspect of it is something I'm very comfortable with. The impact aspect, things on climate change and, social issues. Those are all things I'm very passionate about. The first few months I had a tremendous amount of anxiety. And when I drilled into it, it was, while I have a CPA, I didn't grow up in that investment, right, technical kind of a PM role, which is generally where, folks that have roles like mine, that's kind of how they've found their way into it. And so, once I was able to find like, okay, these are the conversations that give me the most discomfort, or ones where I don't feel that I have the technical skills to have them. And so I registered for the CFA, which has been a tremendous amount of work and canceling and rescheduling. And so now I'm registered to write it in May. So I'm hoping that will actually happen, and I'm ready for it. But even just the studying is helping me in my conversations. So I think it's, the recognition, pinpointing it. And then I think, just the second thing that we have to do in parallel, which probably as women, I know for myself, but I think, more broadly, we probably don't do as much as really practicing self-empathy and, trying to find time to meditate and not be so hard on yourself, because like you'll get there and you'll find your way through it. So I think those are a couple of things that I'd say have helped me.
Oh, fantastic. And again, thank you for sharing so many of your personal thoughts on that too. And good luck. I have no doubt that you're going to be successful in the spring. So Lisa Marie, I'm wondering, how have you continued to build awareness for your brand? And how have you managed to get in front of people when we actually haven't been able to get in front of anyone for almost a year? So, I know you mentioned a little bit about the community work, but are there any particular strategies you've been using to replace the traditional approaches, so to speak?
Well, I think, what I've learned is, because I don't think this is going to be the last time that we're going to have to reinvent ourselves. And so I think what I've learned is that I've now stopped to think about human behavior and human nature. And, to answer your question, I guess I would come back to that, as I spent a lot of time thinking, how am I going to get in front of people, and where are people? Because they're not in the traditional places that we've seen them, in the past. And so I realized that for the most part, especially, in Ontario, we're still under lockdown right now. People are in their homes, online, or they're out walking, exercising, but that's the extent of it. And so when I tried to, when I realized I had to stay in front of people and I had to find ways to interact, I had to then kind of, two ways to kind of change the way that I was communicating with people. And so, I've talked a little bit about the community work that I've done and creating spaces that were within the community that people would enjoy being at. And then my online presence. I needed to find a way, I wanted it to be inviting, and I wanted people to enjoy my content. I didn't want it to seem like it was the same thing that everybody else had out. I wanted to be authentic. And so, and then kind of the second major thing about this was I really had to get out of my comfort zone. I've been in this industry for 25 years this year. And getting, this type of a format I'm comfortable with, but getting on an Instagram live on a weekend and just talking and engaging and all those rules that, you're supposed to follow as you're building your social media profile, so out of my comfort zone. And so, I woke up every day and I said, I'm going to do one thing that scares me today. And that really helped me to build that online presence and to kind of be able to convey that who I am and my authentic self on a platform that I wasn't that comfortable with pre-COVID.
Yeah, amazing. And it's interesting kind of just going back to the kind of that whole comfort zone piece. And by the way, I've been following some of your stuff and I think you're doing an amazing job. I look forward to it. So thanks so much for that. Marissa, let's come back over to you. And so a lot of us strive to achieve that quote unquote balance between our work lives and our personal lives. And I know you and I have chatted often about this, and you don't actually believe in a work-life balance. So why don't you tell our participants today why that is, and maybe some of your secrets to sanity.
Oh goodness. I believe in work-life balance the same way I believe in unicorns. And don't tell my 7-year-old daughter I said that. But I was at an event many years ago, and I requoted this woman who said this so many times. And one day I will find her and I will thank her for changing the way I look at this. But she said, there's no such thing as work-life balance. Balance implies equal parts. And there's no way in our lives we'll be able to equally have that personal and that professional, that family time, that personal time. It's impossible. So she said she believes in work-life harmony. And what I love about that is that now I get to dictate what harmony means for me and just find a way to make my life work. And it took me a while to get there. It took me a while to, during conventional work hours, and again, it depends on the nature of the type of work you do, that I would take time to do things that were personal, knowing that I would probably jump on my computer later on at night and, do some emails and things that were professional. But I look at my day as a jigsaw puzzle. Every week in my calendar, it probably terrifies most people, the color coding that I've got going on, but I have strategically organized my calendar so that I can do as much as I can, but on my own terms. And there was a lot of guilt. I go back to, fate talking about chips on our shoulders and just worrying about judging ourselves and what people are going to think. And I was so worried that people were going to say, well, you can't do that during work hours, or, and I always say to my husband, no, I can't do that. People will think that I I don't have an important job if I go and pick up my kid and take him to the dentist during work hours. And my husband would always say, who are these people? Like, I want to meet these people who are going to judge you so harshly. And I said, well, you know, like, he's like, no, who are these people? And I realized it was just me. It was me saying, well, I was so worried about the appearance of this. So when you take a step back and you look at your life and think there's 24 usable hours in a day and you can use them how you choose to use them, and manage your calendar to fit in things the way you want to fit them in based on what is important, I think it's possible to find harmony, but I just think balance is not possible.
Well, well said, and I'm going to have to call you about my calendar a little bit after this, so I'll get in touch on that. So Moya, back over to you. What are some of the benefits of having a value proposition? I know you chatted a little bit about it earlier on, and maybe just some tips for the audience on how to develop one.
Yeah, so the value, let's start quickly with the value. I mean, it is truly invaluable, and I'm going to use you, Lisa Marie, as an example, because I've found everything you've shared today really inspiring, and I hope the audience has seen the clarity. Like, what comes through when you're speaking is the clarity of obviously how well you know yourself, what you want to put out in the world, and how you're translating that into your business. And there's so much alignment there. So I would say Lisa Marie is an example of just the value. And you need to invest the time in you to get clear, to get that clarity, write it down. And it does become, I use the word North Star compass, but it becomes a touchstone for you. Doesn't mean it doesn't evolve, but it's something always to go back and really ground you and bring, bring the authenticity that all of us are talking about into that and the you in the UVP. And then the other piece that I would say, just functionally, the whole point of having one is so people know who you are and what value you're going to bring to them. I say to my team, maybe it's a little bit more crass, but why should anyone care? Because we're all really busy. People, it's proven our attention spans have shrunk, less than 7 seconds. And so it's really your opportunity to get clear and then break through all the messages that everyone's being bombarded with every day. And if you know your audience, you know them well, you know who you want to connect with, and you have that kind of clarity that Lisa Marie has shared with us today, you're going to be successful. You're going to make that connection. You're going to put that energy out, and it's going to, that success, however that's defined for you, is going to come back. So that's really the value. I think you've got to invest the time to get clear in your own UVP. It's worth it. You're worth it.
Oh, I love that. Wow, I feel like I'm trying to host, but I really want to jot down all these great things you ladies are telling me at the same time. So, so let's go on to the final question before we jump over into the audience Q&A. And so maybe would you be able to share one of the best learning experiences you've had and how you've harnessed it to open up new opportunities? And so Faith, we'll start with you.
Sorry, just going off mute. Yeah, I think, I referenced kind of that aspirational leader that I had early on, and just being given a job that, someone else knew that you could handle that maybe you didn't know yourself. And I think, I came out of that experience really prepared for, a career of changes, right? Companies are constantly evolving and changing, and just learning how to pivot and adapt, right, with the changing tides, I think is something that's helped me, just not in that one role, but continuously throughout. So that's the one experience I'd reference.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you so much. Moya, over to you.
I'll try to make this succinct. I loved this question. My best example is I was up for a promotion previous life, and I didn't get promoted. It was a big job, and I was really pissed off. I felt I had everything it would have taken to do it. So I just said, okay, I got to channel this energy into something more positive and productive. So I made the decision that I was going to behave as if I'd gotten that job, not in an arrogant way, ordering people around, but just in my mind, how would I show up if I had gotten that? And in the meantime, there was a big leadership change at the top. New leader came in, and within 6 weeks of her joining the organization, she appointed me into that role. I was the head of marketing. And so I often remember that. I'm even getting goosebumps again. So I would just encourage everyone, behave in the way that you're capable of, and you'll be amazed at what you achieve.
No, I love that story. Thanks so much for sharing it. Lisa Marie, how about you?
Moya, I love that story, and that's my key takeaway from today. I love that, and I think you said something in your last answer that is kind of connects me to this question, and it was taking the time to figure out who you are and what you want to do. And so my best learning experience would be in our industry, as I'm sure in most of the industries of our participants today, it is a very competitive industry. We are measured on everything. We're measured against our peers, we're measured against other companies, and there's this feeling as though if you stop even for a second to try to work on something, you fall behind. And so I think, I have gotten caught in that where you just kind of go. And last year, the very best thing that I learned was I took the year to, and I had to remind myself many, many times, because it's hard when you're conditioned as being measured against everyone else. I had to remind myself I was taking this time, and that although it felt like maybe I was taking a step backwards, because I was channeling my focus somewhere else, and I was building something else. I was building something that was going to last me, probably the next decade. That I was taking a step back to take 3 steps forward this year. And we're 6 weeks in, and I feel like this is going to be my personal best year ever. And I believe that it's because I took that time, and I kind of I kind of closed my ears to the noise and that feeling of not maybe being at the same threshold as some of my friends, some of my peers, but reminding myself that it was because of that I'm going to spend the next number of years with the path being a little bit easier and a little bit more paved. And I'm better off and further forward as a result of having taken that time and given myself that break.
No, I love that. And I love the whole personal best approach. So thanks so much for sharing that. Last but not least, Marissa.
Thanks, Lena. Well, this is hard to go last. These are amazing stories. I think for me, I'm going to build off, what I said last time about all those people and worrying about all those people. And I think about how much of my career and my life I spent worrying about what everybody else thought. Worrying about, what I should do, rush back from that maternity leave because you don't want to be gone too long, show people that you can do both. And I don't even know where that came from. I look back now, and did anyone ever acknowledge that I came back from my mat leave early? No one said. I didn't get a trophy. I didn't get, sure as heck didn't get a bonus, nothing. And I look back and I think there's just so much pressure I think we put on ourselves. But we have to acknowledge that it comes from ourselves, and we have to cut ourselves some slack. And I think of, having these coaching conversations with some great women that I have the chance to mentor and coach. And, they say to me, gosh, Marissa, you seem so comfortable in your skin and confident. And they're like, well, how? And I was like, yesterday, I think it just happened. I think I'm working on it daily. I think it just comes from this awareness as time passes that we put a lot of this pressure on ourselves. And when we decide to be authentic or to do things or not do things, or to take a moment to decide what's important to us, no one else is sitting there waiting for us to make that decision. No one else is waiting for us to, what's the verdict? Is she going to make the right decision or not? No one's thinking that. And we put a lot of that pressure on ourselves. And it's so hard to step back outside of ourselves and just say, I'm just going to do it and roll with it. And what will be, will be. But we have to cut ourselves some slack. And I think the more slack I've cut myself as I've gotten older and hopefully wiser, the better things have gotten, the more I've enjoyed things and felt good about things. And I think I wish that for everybody is to find that ability to be a little bit more understanding and show that self-empathy that Faye was talking about.
Yeah, amazing. And certainly you ended with a bang. So a close girlfriend of mine always says we can't live in the world of should. And I think I really highlighted that for us. So thanks so much. So we're going to turn it over to the question and answer portion. So as mentioned, if you do have any that you'd like to add into the panel, don't hesitate to do so. And our good friend and colleague, Lisa Ritchie, will come on and ask a few of the questions. So Lisa, over to you.
Great. Thank you so much, Alana, and thank you so much to everyone. I've got so many great notes and some great takeaways, and I know I have the distinct pleasure of working with all of the panelists each and every day, and I've learned a lot of new things. and have definitely enjoyed some of the roundtable discussions with some really inspirational and amazing women here today. So thank you so much for this opportunity. We'd love to get through all of your questions today, but we have a few. But I could say being in the talent acquisition space, naturally defining our brands is something we do every day, but your personal brand is something that is unique, unique to yourselves. And, it's not just how we choose to show up, but it's also an understanding of who we are not, and an awareness around what we will never compromise to really be our true authentic self. And so thank you for this great opportunity today. Marissa, our first question is actually for you. You've obviously been very successful at the executive level within the financial services industry now for several years in what probably feels like a very male-dominated, or more peers that are male. Can you share with all of us just how you've navigated through that in defining your brand and how you show up each and every day?
Sure. I think this is a tough question, because I think for a lot of us women, we would love to flip the switch and overnight, make our industries that are perhaps currently a little bit more male-dominated today just bring in more women to the organization. And we have a lot of women looking at us, especially at the leadership level, saying, Marissa, where are all the women in this company? Where are the female leaders? How do we, and the reality is I'd love to go and find these women today, tomorrow, and bring them in. But some of these problems are a little bit more systemic. We need to get, great women feeding into, the college programs and kind of coming up within the industry. But the good news is it's happening. We have turned corners in so many industries, be it sciences, engineering, financial services. We are not the only industry, and many of you may find yourselves in an industry where it's typically a little bit more male dominated. And I think it's important to play a role in that, to be a voice. But I also think there's opportunity there. I have, in my previous role, I was the only female executive in a company of a lot of men. And, they used to get together, a lot of them, and play hockey on Thursday nights. And we used to have our executive meetings every Friday morning. And without fail, in every single meeting, they'd somehow reference, well, we talked about this last night in the change room, remember? Or Marissa, we discussed this. And I'm thinking, okay, time out. You guys have all these conversations in the change room, and I'm not there. I said, I'm going to start showing up in this change room on, Thursday night. And they're thinking, oh, sure, yeah, come to the change room, Marissa. But I thought, guys, let's not start sentences with, we already had this conversation. I want to be part of this conversation. I want to be part of the solution. I've been to many industry events where I'm literally the only woman in the room, and that's, or one of few. And so I do think though, as a woman, it's an opportunity to use our voice, to educate, to call out, in even the most subtle way, even if you have to use a little sense of humor to say, this is what's happening. But also there's an advantage for us because we stand out. One of the biggest things as you try to grow your career is to be noticed. When you have an idea or something that you want to put forth, Fate talked about creating a lot of her own opportunities, her own jobs, by just voicing what's important and saying, this is really interesting to me, and I somehow landed somewhere that aligned with my values. I was vocal. I would encourage everyone, if you find yourselves in these more male-dominant spaces, you automatically stand out because you're a woman. And that in itself gives you a platform. Leverage that to have a voice, an authentic voice. You don't have to speak for everybody, but you can certainly speak for yourself, and try to educate those around you and aim to be part of the solution and use it to your advantage, for sure, as we work to create progress in these industries.
That's great. Thanks for sharing that, Marissa. And I can, speak. I've started at the same time you actually with IG, and we definitely hear your voice, and you just command a presence. And to your point, are always very courageous and sharing your thoughts and ideas. And it's been amazing to watch. And so thank you for being an inspiration, for sharing that. I know we're just a few minutes away, so we have time actually for one more question. So I think, Moya, I'm going to come right back to you, because I think, you've really shared some really great sound bites for us in developing our UVP, and especially having this background in that marketing space of developing that for larger brands and companies, and also your own. Any last points of reference or takeaways for any one of us on how we continue to evolve our brand and our career going forward?
Yeah, I'll share three things. So the first is, I feel as women, uniquely, we continue to get more and more interesting as we, I don't even want to say age, as we collect more life experiences. And I think it's really important to keep refreshing your UVP by bringing in those experiences. The second is approach everything with curiosity. A few of us have talked about this, you know, a little bit of anxiety, fear, sometimes imposter syndrome, frankly. And I find if I approach it with curiosity, it kind of neutralizes all of that stuff. And I say that because, you know, social media, different communication channels, there's always new ones, and you need to take some risks, try things out, have a bit of an innovative mindset so that you can take that wonderful UVP and reach the people that you need to reach. So take those risks, be a bit innovative, and be curious. And then the last thing, we touched on LinkedIn, and I just learned about this recently, and just something for everyone you can go do when you go check out your LinkedIn profile, is if you Google LinkedIn Social Selling Index, you'll find a link, and you can actually find out, you know, how strong your profile is on LinkedIn. And from what I understand, 60 to 70 is good. And so that's something that you can go check out just to see how well are you currently translating through that channel. And it has some things that you can do to boost that.
Thanks, Moya. That's some really great insights. Thank you so much. Alana, I'm going to turn it back to you to wrap up our session today.
Fantastic. Thanks so much. And so this does conclude the third webinar of our four-part series, Women, Wealth, and Wellbeing, Empowering Women's Success. A huge thank you to our amazing panel today for their time and sharing their expertise. And most importantly, thank you to our audience for joining us and networking. We really enjoyed our questions and the feedback, and really hope you found these insights as valuable as I did. So thank you again, and please join us for the next Women, Wealth, and Wellbeing on February 25th. Where we'll be discussing strategies for taking charge of your wealth with another fabulous panel of women experts. So until then, stay safe, and I'll turn it back over to our hosts with WXN. Karen, back to you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Alana. And thank you to our panelists for sharing your insights on the topic of defining your personal brand. A lot of great insights and definitely a lot of learnings. And I want to thank our audience today for joining us. For those who are able to stay on, please feel free to do so. We have another 30 minutes of extended networking session. I hope you have been inspired as much as I did. Thank you, and enjoy connecting with like-minded individuals.